BABASAHEB, My Life with Dr. Ambedkar, Unveiling the Thoughts of Savita Ambedkar. I request today's guest, Mr. Nadeem Khan, and moderator, Mr. Dr. Pramod Mungate.
BABASAHEB, Dr. Ambedkar, My Life with Dr. Ambedkar, सविता अम्बेडकर की ये मराठी किताब है और ये किताब का ट्रांसलेशन डॉक्टर नदीम खान ने किया है। पेंगुइन ने ये पब्लिश किया है। और क्या है ये किताब, क्यों डॉक्टर नदीम खान सर ने ट्रांसलेट किया है और क्यों हमें ये पढ़ना चाहिए, इस सेशन में आज हमें डिस्कस करना है। जैसा कि हम जानते हैं, डॉक्टर बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर 20वीं सदी के एक बहुत बड़े विचारवंत, स्कॉलर, राइटर, वो क्या नहीं थे, वो अर्थशास्त्री थे, सोशोलॉजिस्ट थे, पॉलिटिशियन थे और सबसे अहम बात अपने लिए ये है कि भारत की जो राज्य घटना है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, तो भारत की राज्य घटना के शिल्पकार है। इतने बड़े पर्सनालिटी, नेशनल लेवल पे नहीं तो इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे इनका नाम है, तो इनके पर्सनल लाइफ पे हमें कुछ जानना है। डॉक्टर बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर की पर्सनल लाइफ कैसी थी? उनका नागपुर से तो सीधा नाता है। आपको मालूम है कि 1956 में उन्होंने यहाँ जो दीक्षा भूमि है वहां पे अपने लाखों लोगों को उन्होंने बौद्ध धम्म की दीक्षा दी थी। दुनिया में जो कन्वर्शंस हुए हैं, धम्म परिवर्तन हुए, उसमें से एक बहुत बड़ा धम्म परिवर्तन अपने नागपुर में हुआ था और डॉक्टर बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने किया था। तो उसके पीछे क्या कारण था, यह भी हमें आज जानना है। डॉक्टर सविता अम्बेडकर बाबा साहब की दूसरी पत्नी थी और उन्होंने 1990 में एक किताब लिखी है बाबा साहेबांच्या सहवासात, माय लाइफ विथ डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब आंबेडकर। तो जब हम किसी भी सेलिब्रिटी को जानते हैं तो हमें एक उत्सुकता होती है कि वो पर्सनल लाइफ में कैसे थे, वो कैसे जीते थे, उनकी खान पान की, रहने की, पहनने की शैली क्या थी। और सबसे बड़ी बात, उन्होंने जो कुछ काम किया है अपने जीवन में, जैसे कि बाबा साहब के बारे में मैंने बताया कि उन्होंने इकोनॉमिक्स पे किताबें लिखी है, सोशोलॉजी में लिखी है और कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया लिखी है। तो यह सब काम करते समय वो कैसे थे, वो कैसे रहते थे, वो क्या सोचते थे। तो एक माँ, ये सभी बातों का विटनेस जो है वो डॉक्टर सविता अम्बेडकर, जो उनकी पत्नी थी। तो उसके बगैर तो कोई दूसरी व्यक्ति उनके बारे में, नजदीकी जीवन के बारे में कुछ नहीं, और दूसरा कोई व्यक्ति नहीं कह सकता जो डॉक्टर सविता अम्बेडकर बता सकती है। सविता अम्बेडकर डॉक्टर थी, यानी मेरे जैसी डॉक्टर नहीं, हम लोग किताबों के डॉक्टर है, वो मरीजों की डॉक्टर थी। डॉक्टर बाबा साहब की तबीयत जब खराब हुई तो उन्हें संभालने के लिए डॉक्टर शारदा कबीर, उनका नाम था शारदा कबीर, वो उनके जीवन में आई। फिर 1948 में बाबा साहब और शारदा कबीर उन्होंने शादी की और बाबा साहब के अंत तक, करीबन 10 साल तक वो उनके साथ रही। ये सब 10 सालों में बाबा साहब जहां जहां फॉरेन टूर्स में गए या भारत की राज्य घटना लिखने के लिए कई बार वो दिल्ली में गए और आखिरी वक्त 56 का जो बताते हैं, नागपुर में उन्होंने ये कन्वर्शन का, धम्म दीक्षा का एक बड़ा प्रोग्राम लिया, उसके साथ उसमें भी वो साथ थी। तो डॉक्टर सविता अम्बेडकर, इन्होंने जो मराठी में किताब लिखी थी वो सिर्फ मराठी के दायरे में ही सीमित रही थी। लेकिन ये जो इतना वर्ल्ड फेमस पर्सनैलिटी डॉक्टर बाबा साहब आम्बेडकर, इनकी लाइफ कैसी थी, वो जो सविता अम्बेडकर ने अपनी मराठी किताब में लिखी थी, वो पूरे दुनिया के सामने जाना चाहिए, सभी दुनिया के सामने जाना चाहिए। इसलिए इंग्लिश में इनका ट्रांसलेशन नादीम खान ने किया है। आज हम सभी लोगों का एक सौभाग्य है, हमारे साथ डॉक्टर नदीम खान है, और जैसा कि प्रवर्तन ने बताया कि वो एक वेल नोन ट्रांसलेटर है, खुद राइटर भी है, उन्होंने परिचय करवाया है, मैं अभी समय नहीं लूंगा कि हमें मराठी में विश्वास पाटिल नाम के एक बड़े नॉवेलिस्ट है, उनकी किताबें अवधूत डोंगरे की, उनके पहले भी उन्होंने कुछ ट्रांसलेशन किया है। तो मैं सबसे पहले डॉक्टर खान से एक सवाल करना चाहता हूं कि आपका ये जो प्रवास है, जर्नी, आप ट्रांसलेटर, एज ए ट्रांसलेटर, तो आप बताइए, क्योंकि हम लोग यहाँ पे बैठे हुए बहुत सारे लोग, हम लोग भी ट्रांसलेटर बनना चाहते हैं, तो प्लीज हमें बताइए आपकी जर्नी।
डॉक्टर मुनघाटे, थैंक यू वेरी मच। ये प्रवास कहाँ से शुरू हुआ ये मुझे भी कहना मुश्किल है, लेकिन कई दफ़ा एक्चुअली जो मैंने शुरू किया, बेसिकली आई स्टार्टेड ट्रांसलेटिंग इंग्लिश pieces into Hindi because I have been a teacher of English, and perhaps most of my reading is confined to English, and I used to be so delighted and so happy that this should somehow cross over and be available to people who perhaps speak in Hindi, Marathi, which is what we all do. So, I mean, since you have raised the issue, may I read out a translation of have you heard of a very, very famous poem called The Walrus and the Carpenter? It is a milestone of a poem. It comes from a book called Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland का अगर नाम नहीं सुना होना तो मैं तो बहुत गुस्सा हो जाऊंगा। मतलब it would be a shame for us to not know about Alice in Wonderland. It is about the ultimate book that has been written on absurdities, right? So Alice in Wonderland mein, Rajan, there is this very famous poem called The Walrus and the Carpenter. All right? तो मैं इसीलिए मैंने पहले से तैयार करके रखा था, मुझे पता था कि ये नौबत आने वाली है। All right. So it's what is called a nonsensical poem. All right? तो मैं पहले इंग्लिश का स्टैंजा पढ़ के सुनाऊंगा, और उसके बाद में उसको मैंने हिंदी में कैसे किया ये आप सुनिएगा। सो इट गोज लाइक दिस। द सन वॉज शाइनिंग ऑन द सी, शाइनिंग विथ ऑल हिज माइट। ही डिड हिज वेरी बेस्ट टू मेक द बिलोज स्मूथ एंड ब्राइट। बिलोज का मतलब रेत। सो द सन वॉज शाइनिंग ऑन द सी, shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright, and this was odd because it was the middle of the night. Okay, so ये मैंने उसको हिंदी में किया है। चमक रहा था सूरज देखो लगा के पूरा दम, और कोशिश थी कि कर दे सारी लहरों को चमचम, पर बात अजब थी क्योंकि आधी रात थी हुई खत्म। The second stanza goes like this. The moon was shining sulkily because she thought the sun had got no business to be there after the day was done. It's very rude of him, she said, to come and spoil the fun. तो ये हिंदी में मैंने इस तरह से किया है। बच गया कि नहीं, रहने दीजिए सर, नहीं नहीं इतनी तकलीफ नहीं, अभी तो मैं जवान हूं। ये क्या हो गया यार? Okay, so the moon was shining sulkily because she thought the sun had got no business to be there after the day was done. It's very rude of him, she said, to come and spoil the fun. तो ये चांद ने चिड़चिड़ लगा रखी थी सूरज के छाने पर, क्यों है अब तक टंगा हुआ ये दिन के ढल जाने पर, बदतमीज को मजा है आता मजा किरकिराने पर। And I'll just read one more stanza from this. And this is a very well-known stanza. The sea was wet as wet could be. The sand was dry as dry. You could not see a cloud because no cloud was in the sky. No birds were flying overhead. There were no birds to fly. So ये हिंदी में, सागर पच पच गीला था और बालू सूखी जाए, बादल नहीं थे आसमान पर दवा के लिए हाय, और पक्षी नहीं उड़ान भर रहे थे कहां जो उड़ पाए. So this is just a sample of this is perhaps my first effort, and I must have done it something like 30 years ago, and I did it mainly for kicks. You know, I just wanted to, by the way, I'm a bit of a show person, showman. All of us teachers are, which is perhaps makes for half the, reason for students to attend. So, well, yeah, I just did it as a lark. और उसके बाद में फिर मुझे ऐसा लगा, people have often asked me why don't I write, but I noticed that there is such very rich literature in the vernacular languages, and Marathi is, in my opinion, along with say Malayalam and Bengali, it has the richest literature that you can ever find. We talk about great Russian authors, we talk about French authors, all of them are available to us in English. He's reading Dostoevsky, you've heard of Tolstoy, and then Camus and all these guys, they are great writers, and they have all been translated into English, and they have now recognition across the world. And this is, I believe, what Marathi literature also very seriously deserves. I believe there is great literature in Marathi, and now that I am in the last innings of my life, perhaps it is the fourth or the fifth innings, I break the bounds of cricket. So I thought maybe this might be a good way of keeping myself engaged and keeping myself engaged meaningfully. So this is the reason why, sir, I got into translation.
थैंक यू सर. अभी डॉक्टर खान सर ने हमें जो एक कविता का अनुवाद बताया जो इंग्लिश में है, आई थिंक एलिस इन वंडरलैंड, तो बहुत ही वंडरफुल पोएम है और उसका ट्रांसलेशन बताया. तो ट्रांसलेशन ये मैकेनिकल वर्क नहीं है, ये छोटे से एग्जाम्पल से हमें समझ में आया. ये कोई मैकेनिकल वर्क नहीं है कि भाई एक कोई इंग्लिश में है और मुझे मराठी करना है तो मैं डिक्शनरी लेके बैठता हूं और करता हूं. उन्होंने जो रिदम से किया है, जो ओरिजिनल पोएट है उसका पूरा भावार्थ हमें हिंदी में सर ने बताया है. उसमें उनका बहुत सारा वक्त जाता है, उनकी सारी प्रतिभा जो है वो सब जुटाना पड़ता है सब, तब कहीं एक अनुवाद या ट्रांसलेशन हमारे सामने आता है. तो मुझे पूछना है सर कि आपने डॉक्टर सविता अंबेडकर की जो किताब है बाबा साहेब माय लाइफ विद डॉक्टर अंबेडकर, यो क्यों आपने सिलेक्ट किया, यो क्यों चुना आपने? क्योंकि उसमें बहुत सारा वक्त लगता है, तो बहुत सारे किताबें हैं मराठी में, फिर भी आपने इसका सिलेक्शन क्यों किया है?
सर एंड माय वंडरफुल ऑडियंस, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये मेरा पर्सनल ओपिनियन है कि इंडिया was blessed with the sharpest intellectuals, the greatest thinkers, people with immense foresight, and these were the people who brought us into freedom and constructed a society based upon certain human values that even today's bad circumstances find it difficult to break. I am making a very strong comment. It is actually a comment, but it is because those people were there, Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, Gandhi, Ambedkar, all of these guys say we were truly blessed to have had such quality of people who were guiding us through our freedom struggle and helping us establish newly independent country. And because of this, we continue to flourish in the manner that we have flourished. And my personal opinion is, I was talking to my friend Rajan a little while ago, I believe that Ambedkar was head and shoulders above Gandhi, Nehru, Patel, everybody. This man's scholarship, this man's scale of thinking is unmatched. It just happened, and this is a bit of a misfortune, that Ambedkar took up the cause of the Dalit community to which he belonged. Okay, he was their messiah, he was their leader, and somehow a kind of throwback has been that a large number of us see him only as a leader of that community. That is a terrible, terrible misfortune. Because of course he led them, of course his heart bled for them, of course he did the kind of magic that relieved his people of 5,000 years of slavery. I mean, it's difficult to imagine the kind of life that those people lived, and you know it. I mean, you have heard about it, you have read about it plenty of times. So it was his life's mission, it was his purpose to be able to liberate those people and bring them out of the terrible circumstances in which they were living. So, okay, for that community to sort of adopt him as their leader is fine. But in the process, what happened was that because he was taken away by that community, for the rest of us who didn't belong to that community, we thought, okay, he's their leader. It is a terrible misfortune. It should never have happened. But anyway, it did happen. So a person of Ambedkar's quality, scope of mind, thinking. Imagine in 6 years, he took 2 doctorates from the world's biggest universities, one Columbia, 2 Oxford, within 6 years. Also, he did his MA in economics from London School of Economics. Okay, people who know London School of Economics, they can swoon at the very name. He did his law and all at Gray's Inn, as far as I remember. So a person who came from absolute nowhere, he had no resources, he had no backing, and still he managed to do all this and arrived there. And he happened to be the chief architect of the Constitution. And I'm not a student of, I'm actually not a student of Ambedkar. I'm not a student of politics. I'm just a reasonably alert reader. And from this little bit of reading, whatever I have gathered is that it is Ambedkar primarily who gave you the Constitution as it is. Of course, he was the head of the drafting committee, but even as the head, there were 7 members in the committee. 2 of them died, a third went somewhere, a 4th disappeared somewhere. So at the end of the day, it was Ambedkar himself who was sitting and writing the Constitution, single-handedly. Have you seen the document? If you see and if you can imagine that it was a single person has written it, you would know what orbit that person was moving in. So, well, anyway, Ambedkar, in my opinion, was, the greatest human being, leader of the 20th century, India. Along with that, he also had, he was known across the world. Columbia University has conferred an honorary doctorate upon him. So he was a very great leader, and he died in 1956. And his second wife, Savita Ambedkar, Dr. Mungate has talked about it. She wrote this Marathi autobiography in 1990. Please begin counting. I am very bad at arithmetic, but after all that, I still think that it should be around 32 years. Yeah? 2022? 1990? Yeah, all right. So I am not bad in maths. So here, for 32 years, the wife talking about one of the greatest human beings of the 20th century, all of it lying unknown, was a shock to me. Believe me, I could not believe that here is a document that should have been on everybody's lips, and it was imprisoned in the Marathi language. Imprisoned, I hope you don't, read it negatively. But at the end of the day, Marathi is spoken, sir, by about 8.5% of India's population. And Ambedkar is at least a national figure, if not an international figure. So here is this book that is being kept out of the reach of over 90% of the Indians. Now, does it shock? It stunned me. It stunned me. And so I went on asking कि ये ऐसे हुआ कैसे? फिर मैंने बाद में सोचा यार मेरे नसीब में था, वो मेरे लिए रुकी हुई थी. So वो किताब मेरी नजर में आई और उसको मैंने translate किया, and I'm so delighted at having done it. The moment this book was published, Columbia University has already held a book discussion on it. In the next few days, I'll be going to Odisha, Bhubaneswar, to again talk about the book. Then I go to the IIMC to talk about the book. I'm going to Mumbai Government Law College again to talk about this book, because this was a book that had sort of been put into a prison. And I have released that book from that prison, and the Penguin people are already flooded with offers from all languages. Malayalam, I know, Tamil, Odia, Bengali, Assami, all of these people have now run for this book because they want to translate it into their languages. So this was how important this book was. And I'm happy it remained unnoticed for my benefit.
थैंक यू सर. ये ट्रांसलेशन का क्या सिग्निफिकेंस है आपने बताया, क्यों आपने उसे सिलेक्ट किया. लेकिन आपने जो ऑटोग्राफी की सिलेक्ट किया है सविता अम्बेडकर की, और जो जिनके बारे में डॉक्टर बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर लेजेंडरी पर्सनैलिटी, तो उनके पीछे हजारों लाखों लोग होते हैं, और उनके बायोग्राफी में जो कुछ होता है, जो कुछ है, उसके बारे में लिखना, आई थिंक इट इज नॉट इजी टास्क. तो आपको क्या क्या कठिनाइयां आई, आपका क्या अनुभव है, क्योंकि जो सोर्सेस सविता अम्बेडकर ने यूज किया था वो मेरे ख्याल से प्राइमरी सोर्सेस नहीं थे.
Absolutely, yeah.
तो लेकिन आपकी किताबें इंग्लिश में अगर आती है और पूरे वर्ल्ड में जाती है, तो बाबा साहब के बारे में कोई भी रेफरेंस है वो गलत नहीं जाना चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर गलत होता है तो क्या होता है हम देखते हैं. रिलीजियन है, पॉलिटिक्स है, क्या होता है देखते हैं, एक एक वर्ड के बारे में सोचना पड़ता है. तो मुझे पूछना है कि आपका क्या एक्सपीरियंस रहा है ये ट्रांसलेशन के पीछे.
So thank you for asking me this question. This is the Marathi copy, right? And the way it has been written, the Marathi document has been written, it appeared to me that it had been written for private circulation. Okay, there was no citation of any kind. She's making a lot of claims. She's talking about this letter and that bhashan and that conversation. But at the end of the day, if you are presenting it to a thinking world, they'll want to know कि भैया ये आपने लाया कहाँ से? मुझे अगर confirm करना है, मुझे अगर corroborate करना है, तो मैं कहाँ जा करके ढूंढूं? तो by and large इसको as a translator, language to language, English में ला लेना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं थी, क्योंकि इसके अंदर कोई दांव पेच नहीं है, कोई इसमें कोई लिटरेरी फ्लरिशेस नहीं है, कोई मेटाफर्स नहीं है जिनके लिए मैं सर खुजाते बैठूं. तो इट इज एन आउट एंड आउट narration. This lady sat and talked, and she had an acolyte of hers, a devotee of hers, who sat down and wrote, a gentleman by name Surwade. So this was how this book got to be written. And again, over and over again, I think, why was it not corroborated? As I said, at the end of the day, it appears to me कि ये privately लिखी है, अपने 15 लोगों के चक्री में घूमेगी, इसके बाहर नहीं जाएगी. लेकिन अगर इसके बाहर ये शेर को पिंजरे से बाहर निकालना है, तो बहुत सारे इंतजाम करने पड़ते हैं. तो इसके लिए मुझे रिसर्च बहुत करना पड़ा कि ये लेटर इन्होंने जो दिया है, ये लेटर मैं कहाँ ढूंढ करके निकालूं. ये किसी के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं या स्पीच उन्होंने दी है. कई दफा ऐसा हुआ कि डॉक्टर आम्बेडकर वुड मेनली राइट इन इंग्लिश, Mainly his medium of writing was in English. Before that, of course, he did a lot of journalism in Marathi, but by and large, English was his preferred language. So he would write letters in Marathi. For the sake of this book, that English letter was translated into Marathi, and now I have that letter and I'm expected to translate it back into English. So obviously, I couldn't just do that and do the best effort at translating. I needed to get it absolutely exact. So I had to read that. I had to read a lot of letters and find, this is the one that matches. तो इस तरह की मेहनत मुझे काफी करनी पड़ी. Fortunately, डॉक्टर आम्बेडकर के ऊपर लिटरेचर बहुत रिच है और उनके अनुयायी इतने सारे हैं जिन्होंने बहुत सारा काम करके रखा है. और ये जो डॉक्टर मिस्टर सुरवाड़े हैं जिन्होंने ये किताब लिखने में मदद की थी, he is the ultimate source for all kinds of documents. So this slogging I had to do, but the benefit has been that I am that much richer in my knowledge of a very great man. So yeah, this is what I was required to do. This book, as it happens, is complete with all the annotations that you can ever want. Naturally, a publisher like Penguin would not even, ऐसा हुआ है. By the way, I won't tell this to you, मैं नाम नहीं बताऊंगा, लेकिन इस मराठी के डॉक्यूमेंट के अंदर मिसेस आम्बेडकर एक बड़े फेमस पॉलिटिशियन के बारे में बताती हैं कि वो पॉलिटिशियन का बेटा और उसकी बहू उनके घर आए और ये बेटे की शिकायत ये थी कि ये जो पॉलिटिशियन है वो अपनी बहू पर बुरी नजर डाल के है. Okay, no, this was a private conversation and these people were scared कि सर इसका अगर आप मुझे corroborate करके नहीं डाल सकते नाम वाम डाल के तो हम इसको नहीं छापेंगे. भाई, I understood their problem because you are talking about a very big man. You are talking some very unsavory activities of that man, and it could not be put into print without extremely watertight corroboration. So therefore the publishers decided कि भैया इसको तो हम नहीं डालेंगे. तो मेरी उनसे कंडीशन ये थी कि भाई आप मत डालिए, I understand your problem, but don't let the readers think that I have taken the decision of snipping it. See, as a translator, it is my responsibility to give to you in English whatever has come in Marathi. So then we decided कि हर एक जगह एक बॉक्स क्या कहलाती है, बॉक्स ब्रैकेट में 3 एस्टरिस्क मार्क, इसका मतलब कि पब्लिशर्स की कैंची चली है. तो राइट, this is what had to be done. Some pieces had to be left out because they were impossible of publication without watertight evidence.
थैंक यू सर. अपने सेशन का टाइम खत्म हो रहा, फिर भी मेरे 2 सवाल है क्योंकि डॉक्टर बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर के बारे में या उनके ऊपर बहुत सारे लिटरेचर अवेलेबल है, फिर भी आप हम लोगों को क्यों सजेस्ट करते हैं कि ये बुक के बारे में?
ओके, गुड क्वेश्चन. अभी डॉक्टर आई डोंट नो इफ ही हैज अ डॉक्टरेट, लेकिन शशि थरूर, ओके, शशि थरूर की अभी बहुत ही सुंदर बायोग्राफी आई है ऑन डॉक्टर आम्बेडकर. इट वाज रिलीज्ड इन अक्टूबर. इट्स अ ब्रिलियंट बुक एंड आई रोट टू दैट जेंटलमैन. आई टोल्ड हिम कि सर, you have given one picture of this man. This is the book that complements your book, and this gives you the other picture that no other biographer can ever possibly give. Imagine, this is the wife talking about a rather demanding husband, and the kinds of insights that you can get in this book about Dr. Ambedkar, you can never possibly get in any other book. This book humanizes Dr. Ambedkar as nothing else does. आप देखिए जगह जगह स्टैच्यूज खड़ी हैं. When you look at Ambedkar, you are filled with awe कि अरे बाप रे, बहुत ही भारी आदमी है. ऑफ कोर्स भारी आदमी है, बट एट द एंड ऑफ इट ऑल, ऑन द अदर साइड, ही वाज अ ह्यूमन बीइंग. ये आप इस किताब से आप हैरान होंगे कि 1948 में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन लिखा जा रहा था. 18 घंटे पार्लियामेंट में बैठ करके ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन लिखते थे और रात को थके हारे 12 बजे लौटते थे और 12 बजे अपनी मंगेतर, अपनी बिलवेड, अपनी होने वाली वाइफ को 25-25 पन्नों के लव लेटर्स लिखते थे. Now where can you get this? I'll read out a small portion which tells you.
आपको बताने वाला था, प्लीज. हम सब
tells
लोगों
you
को पता चलेगा कि आपने क्या लिखा है, क्या ट्रांसलेट
Dr.
किया है.
Ambedkar for being the great man that he was. But perhaps this is the destiny of all great men, that because of their sheer greatness, they turn to be very lonely. उतनी ग्रेटनेस उनके आसपास में नहीं रहती है तो वो अपने आप में समाये जाते हैं. और कितने भी ग्रेट रहे, कितने भी महारथी रहे, बीवी के सामने तो जो हैं सो हैं. Right? So this is the picture that you get. I am reading out a piece of the love letter that I mean, this is so shocking, you know. थोड़ा सा फिट नहीं बैठता. Love letter, Dr. Ambedkar. अबे क्या बात कर रहा है? Come on. He's not Shah Rukh Khan. But anyway, this is the kind of stuff that he wrote and it bowled me over. I tell you, I have never been so astounded by any other book before this. Here, I'm reading out a small portion. Now look at this. Remember that Dr. Ambedkar has spent something like 16 hours in the parliament. थके हारे आए हैं, उनकी शादी तय हो गई है, ये दिल्ली में बैठे हैं और उनकी बेगम बंबई में, क्या कौन सी बर्मा की गलियों में तुम और मैं हूं देहरादून. तो ये उसी तरह का कुछ नमूना है. And he writes at 12 o'clock at night, I cried during the day. Ambedkar talking. Okay, think of all those statues and imagine him crying. An impossible task. So I cried during the day, you cried at night. Our love for each other is not going to shrink like the water stocked up in a well. It has a spring at its base. My God, Ambedkar turning poetic. It has a spring at its base. The tears were the result of its overflowing. They arrived in the eyes of both of us, don't you think? Okay. I believe that you too are a great treasure given to me by God for safekeeping. When you told me over the telephone that you had not been keeping well, I felt extremely bad. Look, children, I mean friends, I'm now 72. But I have very distinct memories of when I was 25 and when I was courting the person who is currently my wife. Okay? So I could so easily identify with me as the young lover and this gentleman, 56 years old, turning into a young lover at that point of time. भाई दिन भर में वो भारत की तकदीर लिख रहे हैं और रात में अपनी तकदीर पर आंसू आ रहे हैं. Right. So I believe that you too are a great treasure given to me by God for safekeeping. When you told me over the telephone that you had not been keeping well, I felt extremely bad. It is necessary for you to take great care of your health. Nay, it's your duty to take care of your health. Okay. So this is one piece. And I'll read out another tiny little piece that tells you how lonely he is, how terribly lonely. Again, a part of his love letter. This is, no, let me read out some other part. Okay, I'll give you another picture. Dr. Ambedkar otherwise was a very solitary man, but he loved cooking and he loved to serve it to people with a lot of joy. और यहाँ पे ये लोग एक पिकनिक में गए हुए हैं. डॉक्टर आम्बेडकर हैविंग गॉन फॉर अ पिकनिक. कैन यू इमेजिन ऑल दीज थिंग्स? कैन यू थिंक ऑफ गांधी हैविंग गॉन फिशिंग? So it's something like this, you know. So I'll just read this. On reaching the spot, all of us had some tea. Sahib insisted that he would himself do the cooking and got busy immediately. The first thing he did was to instruct the cook to lay out the spices for each of the dishes, for marinating the chicken, for dry mutton, and for biryani. He could have opened up a good restaurant. The proportions of each item that went into the masala were instructed for each dish. How much of chilies, how much of dry coriander powder, how much garam masala, how much of opium seeds, how much of this and that and the other thing. I was amazed that Dr. Saheb was a bigger expert in this matter than any woman could be. Okay, and he would say the masala should be ground so soft like butter and should be so fine that you should not notice it even if it is put into your eyes. Surma banane ka. Okay. Now, when the cooking was in progress, he would lift the lid of a vessel, scoop out a little bit of the dish being cooked with a spoon on his left palm and lick it to see how it was coming out. Okay. He would then issue instructions for adding a little bit of this or that. That day, he didn't allow me to get into the cooking at all. Sharu, he said, you just keep watching and see what delicious stuff I can cook. Sharu is the wife. I doubt whether any of you women can cook such delicious stuff as this. He also prepared wet chutney and this and that, and then we spread sheets out on the ground and we sat for our meals. There was a lot of chat and fun and laughter right through the meal. Saheb would force extra helpings on each one of those assembled. As the meal progressed, he would look victoriously at us and ask, so, how was the cooking? If the meal ended in a very convivial atmosphere, everyone came forth with genuine praise for Saheb's culinary skills. He would feel a great sense of contentment in cooking and serving his dishes to others. Remember?
Wow.
Ambedkar.
Really wonderful.
No, love letters, भैया.
मैं अभी आपको ही दे रहा था. अभी ऑडियंस से बात करते हैं.
Yeah.
आपको किसी को अगर पूछना है,
लव लेटर्स तो
इतने अच्छे लव लेटर्स डॉक्टर आम्बेडकर के डॉक्टर खान ने हमें पढ़ के बताए, तो शायद हम लोग भी वैसे प्रैक्टिस करते हैं. यानी मैं मेरे बारे में नहीं बता रहा हूँ, आपके बारे में. तो आप कुछ सवाल कर सकते हैं कंसर्न दिस बुक.
How would the other writers on Ambedkar would not have equally humanized him? यानी मेरा जो दावा है कि ये किताब ह्यूमनाइज करती है, तो यार आपका नाम क्या है बेटे? वीर प्रताप. वीर प्रताप ऐसा है कि आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट अदर पीपल डिड नॉट ह्यूमनाइज हिम. Obviously, they were running into him as a leader, as a senior advisor, but also as a human being all the time. So, human aspects you would find in every one of them. But can you find the same degree, the same intensity, the same depth of humanizing that a wife can do? You see, she is privy to a part of the world that nobody else can ever be, right? So, of course, he has been humanized by the others, but here he looks like somebody who could very well be me. So the intimacy, the level of intimacy, so we are talking of relative humanization, right? And my claim is that this book humanizes him like no other book can. They have humanized, yes, but not to this extent, and the reason is obvious. We have an absolutely ringside view. In fact, let me call it a bedside view of the great man, and no better view than this to reduce a person down to being a proper human being.